Yes.
Okay, is this right with, I don't know, with the regulation or maybe cause some problems? I don't know if the votes should be secret or not.
I don't understand your question. Sorry.
This procedure for voting was was a secret ballot or with revealed names?
We voted all together, and it was unanimous about the proposal.
Yes, no problem. Just for the next, I think it was my first voting under that system.
Yes.
Just a comment if it's a secret vote or not, or if it should be that way.
So you mean if Panayotis can understand who voted yes or no? This is the question.
No, I think that what Yanis is asking, that when we are sitting live in the Congress, we can see who is voting
Okay.
yes and no. Here we cannot see, but I think that as far as I know, maybe Patrick can comment. We have no procedure defined in the Articles of Association. I think it's up to the Congress to define what will be the method of voting. And if we all agree that given the circumstances we are having the Zoom call, this is probably the only way to vote. The other option is that we are all hailing at the same time and raising the hand, but I think that on the end, the result will probably be the same.
That's correct, that in our memorandum there is nothing about secret or open vote.
I think we can proceed with this method of vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you all agree, we move now to the annual general meeting. Zoran, can we start it? Is it open, Panayotis?
Yeah, as we said, we are now on live on YouTube, and then observers, whoever was registered, got the link so they can follow us on YouTube. And we have some observers also that are our committee members, but not the Congress members, but they are following us through Zoom.
Again, this was a very difficult year for our sport, but I'm happy to report to all of you that the ORC did a good job. We are in a good shape financially and with our rules. We didn't stop our research, and we could still issue certificates in 45 countries, 36 by national rating offices and 9 by our central office. The super yacht rule is still there, and talking with the Super Yacht Racing Association, we decided not to amend the rule in 2021 because we would like to test it one more as it was in 2019. And so we decided not to change the super yacht rule for next year. We had new countries joining and giving up their local system. These were Estonia and Finland. And we got overall a decrease at the mid-October date of 25% certificates. That means roughly 7,500 certificates issued instead of the 10,000, more than 10,000 issued in 2019, in 12 months. This is 10 months. The introduction of the double-handed certificate has proved to be very popular this year. We issued 2,500 certificates in 23 countries, with over 700 issued in the Baltic. We could still run measurement and promotional seminars in USA and Turkey. We also continue to develop our new VPP that is including movable ballast feature counting kills, and different packages such as DSS and all these new features for planning boats. The International Technical Committee is adding the effect of foil for offshore yachts, and has also committed for a new complete VPP to run a new rule for multi-hulls. The rule is named ORC MH. We are in discussion with MOCRA to have the two rules combined with use combined in 2021, and then to have only ORC MH for the future years. Our events, as you all know, the championship, the World Championship was cancelled in New York, and the Europeans in Capri, Naples were postponed to 2021 in the same place, as well as a sport boat European Championship that was due to happen in Istanbul and is postponed to next year in Istanbul as well. The World Championship next year will be held in Tallinn, Estonia, in August. We continue also our link with the Sailing Yacht Research Foundation for support to VPP research, and also providing polars and certificates for the H0 scoring for this year's Spirit of Bermuda Rally in cooperation with SAP, with the development of a new sail performance app called Sail Insight. This is also linked to the cooperation with a new organization coming out 3 weeks ago, the Offshore Double Organization, dealing mainly trying to group all the sailors sailing double-handed. Our sailor service system has been improving also this year. The unique users for the system were the same as last year. That means that sailors did not stop, even if locked in their own home, to play around the certificate and test what happens to their boat if they change something. A new publication was issued, that is the race management guide for all race manager, and a new ORC scorer software was online to produce also scratch sheet. We are in the process of designing a new website that will appear next year. The designer version of the VPP every year is more and more successful, and we had a lot of people buying it. Our committees have been working hard during the year. The ITC met virtually for 3 times, and they continue to develop their research for a new aerodynamic model, a new residual resistant, and we will hear the chairman Andy Clowton while reporting this great job during the year. I don't have anything else to report, and if you don't have questions, I pass the word to our treasurer for his official report.
You want to take over screen, Patrick? Patrick, you are muted.
Okay, I guess I'm unmuted now,
Yeah.
I hope. So yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Congress. I think I'll start with the short version of the 2019, as we have in the previous meeting approved the books. So in principle, 2019 was basically a normal year. We had a turnover of just under 700,000 euros, made a profit of 25,000. The big, from the financial point of view, was, or the organization of the finance was, that we moved over now at last to a total electronic bookkeeping system, which means we have up-to-date information all the time how we are going and where we are going. Especially coming into 2020, we were very happy to have that in place, and that was quite a lot of effort from the staff to get that one working. The end of 2019, we were in a good position also that we had funds for almost 600,000 euros. Most of them are cash in the bank account, which is an interesting position to have, but that is also good going in difficult years, that we can more or less run the company for a year without even no income. Here we have a small split of how the cost in our company lays. And again, one of the big ones is, of course, salaries, or as in our bookkeeping is called consultancy fees. And then, of course, the research and development is always a big part of us. Do we have any question, or shall we go to the more interesting, which is this year's figures?
Well, I have to report to all the observers that in the closed meeting we formally approved these 2019 accounts. So I think you can move to next.
Yes. So of course, coming in to 2020 with a quite optimistic view of the world, we were very soon in a position to understand this will not be a normal year or a normal world. So we started immediately in the beginning of the year to have a clear contact and clear picture of what we can do and not do. So we are probably looking to have the year of end forecast of just 450,000 as a revenue. But luckily we have been able to save quite a lot of cost during the year, mostly from traveling and not having physical meetings. For example, the AGM is normally a very expensive thing for us. But doing that, we have succeeded to keep the research and development on normal level through the whole year, which we probably come back to later in this meeting. So the organization, our technical, EIT, programming, all that has been working as normal. So the situation probably even will end with a plus-minus result for the year, and which I think is a quite good regarding the situation in the whole of the world for the moment. And I'm really happy also that we have been able to continue the development.
While I have to compliment Patrick, Pascal, and Vivian for the job they have been doing with the accounting company in London, based in London, I have to report that these final number for 2020, due to the fact that now we are running completely on an electronic system, will be available some month before next Congress. So it will not happen that the accounts will be packed up at the very last moment from the accounting firm, because we are now on top of that thing. Correct, Patrick?
Correct.
Okay. The other proposal from the treasurer is for the budget 2021. Please, Patrick.
Yes, of course, going into the 2021 is a very difficult question because nobody knows how we will go. So the official budget will more or less be the same as for 2020, but with the same focus as this year, that from January onward, we will be on top of the situation, follow the situation, and see what we can do and what we can't do. And I think one of the big things, if we have a bad situation in the world, we probably need to come back. Do we really want to have an AGM in Abu Dhabi? Because that is a big part of costs, for example. But that's things we probably need to come back to during the year.
I see there is a chat.
There's a chat about.
Sorry.
Okay.
BBC says that Biden won. Okay. Thank you, Andrew. We are safe.
Fake news.
Okay. I have to compliment again our treasurer, and now I put to the Congress the appointment of honorary treasurer. As Patrick has been doing such a great job, my suggestion to the Congress is to reappoint Patrick Lindquist as honorary treasurer for ORC. And I ask to the people who is contrary or abstain to put their vote on chat. Otherwise, it will be unanimous. Ah, 20 contrary, Patrick. You're safe.
Fantastic, I'm out.
No, thank you again.
Thank you.
I think it is unanimous. You're doing a great job.
Yes.
Now I ask Zoran help to put again the changes in membership of our committees. We did approve these changes in the EGM, but let's show to our observers what is going on. We have Ichiro Yokohama retiring from the measurement committee, and unfortunately for the offshore class and event committee, Paolo Massarini, our chairman, passed away on February 17 this year, and he will be added to the roll of honor, while I will step in as chairman of this committee. I have been acting as chairman for the last 3 years due to the illness of Paolo. Andrew McIrwine has accepted to join this committee, and I know that the contributor of ORC, who is the greatest organizer of offshore events around the world, will only add value to our committee. Thank you, Andrew, to be joining. For the Risk Management Committee, David Bartol is joining this committee. We also ask to all our M&As if and when they have somebody to propose, please come back to the management, and we are really happy to have you cooperating and working. There is nothing to gain, no money involved, but there's a lot of time to devote. Thank you. So let's come to the real work of this Congress, that is to look at what our committees have been discussing and the proposal from our committees to this Congress to be approved. I have to say that this year we did not receive so many submissions due to the fact that not many races were going on the water, but still we received some from many countries. And also the management took the chance to promote a revisitation of the format of our certificates and all the scoring options that are presented. This has been a good discussion in our committees, and I asked the most important one, the International Technical Committee with his chairman, Andy Clowton, to present the work the ITC has been doing all over the year and what the suggestions are for the Congress for next year. Please, Andy.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Bruno, and thank you, gentlemen. I'd just like to say again, also thanks to Patrick for keeping the funds flowing through our technical operation. It's been a massive help to be able to not have to put the brakes on anything. So I won't go through the minutes word by word, but I've just prepared a few slides to talk through what we've done. So as Bruno says, there's not been any racing, so there's not been any feedback on the VPP formulation. So there are no substantive changes proposed to the VPP by the ITC this year. But I will describe in due course the changes that have arisen from the chief measurer's report and also the submissions. It's been a quiet year in terms of the phone ringing with measurement problems, but it hasn't been a quiet year in terms of actually making progress with our technical products. We've done an overhaul and upgrade of the VPP and LPP computer code, so that's very much housekeeping, just moving it to a new and more easily managed environment. We've continued with our research agenda as planned, and I think thanks to the good work of the staff and the committee members, we've made good progress with the Skype meetings. We've kind of got our found our stride with that approach. Also, in the world of the staff, we've and with input from the ITC, we've created a new offset file and LPP process. And as Bruno said, we've, in cooperation with Mokra, we've built from the ground up a handicapping VPP for the multi-hulls. So I'll talk first about the matters that arose from the chief measurer's report. There are 6 items. The top 4 in green will need some action from Davide to program. One is to update them.
Sorry, Andy. Davide is Davide Battistin, that is our programmer dealing with our VPP yes. And LPP.
Yep. Sorry. So that we needed a new minimum area based on the ISP and the TPS. So that's noted in the minutes, and it's a very straightforward change just to bring in a new minimum area to avoid the very heavy the potential heavy penalty that was there before. Also, in starting to handicap some of the boats, the New York Yacht Club cruise, a couple of issues arose. One was that we had a cat boat, i.e., a boat with 2 masts and no jib to handicap, and we then ran into a problem which has been in the VPP since the bad old days of the Cascade back at the SORC. Oh, could be 40 years ago, in that the VPP won't function without a jib. So we're going to try and, well, we're going to take out that restriction for this year. We managed to do a handicap VPP without problem, and for 2022 we'll try and upgrade the aero model to deal with cat rigs. There's been some discussion about the behavior of the jibing angle output on the certificate. We've been through the problem carefully. It's not an issue with the sail coefficients. It's not an issue with the VPP. It's a real physical manifestation of how the boat sails. So our initial approach was to remove those angles from the page 1 of the new certificate, but I think that might change in due course. And also, excuse me, also there was a bug in the treatment of the Howes propeller shaft when the boat had 2 rudders. So we'll get rid of that. Also, and then there are a couple of problems that we'll fix by 2022. One is it's a really small problem where the centerboard span and draft are miscalculated in some instances for a centerboard that doesn't lower out of a parent keel. So that just takes a bit of thought to fix. And also for 2022, we want to increase the scope of the PIPA calculation to deal with the drag of electrical thrusters and also the drag of the built-in hydro generators. So I don't know if there are any detailed questions on there. It's most fairly non-controversial.
I think you can move on, Andy.
Okay. In terms of the submissions, the submission to update the certificate format, the ITC were involved heavily on that, and I think Zoran will probably present the fruits of the work on that. So I think the ITC would recommend adopting that. Mancom 2 is essentially some housekeeping to bring the measurement of spinnaker pole length into alignment between the ORC and IRC and some of the other rules. What we're going to do is just add a fixed increase to the spinnaker pole length automatically to the 2021 DXT files, and where boats are subsequently measured, that that calculated addition will be amended to match the measured result. The Germany one on the viscous resistance, this has been running for a while. It's it's good to have the engagement of the of other technicians outside the ITC, but we didn't feel that now is the time to make a change to the viscous resistance of the appendages. It's quite a disruptive change to because the speed of the whole fleet changes, and also it's on the table to update for 2022. So we didn't support that submission. There's the question of the fact that the crew can hike further over the side of the boat with double lifelines, Norway 1. And as an acknowledgement of that, we propose that for sports boats, which are boats less than 8.5 meters that have bona fide single lifelines, we would make an adjustment to the term CEXT, which is the crew extension, and we would just subtract 0.2 meters from that for boats with single lifelines. So we would propose that for adoption. The Russia 1 and Russia 2 were well, the Russia 1, the ad hoc heel angles, it was essentially a fairly complicated ad hoc calculation to make sure that the VPP didn't predict heel angles that were outside what the boat could actually sail at. Making that kind of calculation doesn't change the handicaps, and it seemed not to be a step in the right direction. So that the submission is not supported, and there's some more detail in the minutes. And the second Russia 2 is the longitudinal crew position, and that's again, we've seen this discussion before, but we're confident that the existing VPP is working well, and so we don't support that submission. I don't know if there are any questions, or maybe Zoran can update on where we ended up with the certificate format on page 1.
If we don't have any question, Willem.
Yes, I noticed the getting rid of the jibing angle, and there may be a good reason technically to do that, but I believe that there was quite a bit of comments during the several meetings that people really like the jibing angles on the certificate. Is there any way we can still leave them on there?
Yes, I think we can leave them. We can leave them on there. There's room there. It's not an article of faith for the ITC. It was just we were keen to not have to have the same discussion over and over again. Why my jibing angles don't quite behave as I think they should, but we can over time deal with that by adding some words into the documentation and the speed guide. So if the feeling of the council is to keep the jibing angles in there, then we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Any other comment? If not, we are ready to have a look.
Move on to what we've
No,
done this.
Luke has a question. Luke Gelousseau. Luke, can you put your microphone?
Luke, oh, sorry, yes.
Yes, just a question about the ORC multi-hull VPP, to know when it will be available and when will it be available to create and establish ORC multi-hull certificate.
We're running trial certificates now. We ran them for the Offshore Maxi Association fleet and also for the Mokra fleet in the Middle Sea race. We're just going to digest a little bit. We've got a few changes to make to the force model, which we haven't yet had time to program. But our intention is that certificates would be available for regattas next spring.
Okay, and when will it be available, a beta test?
I would imagine after January the 1st, if providing our programming effort goes to plan.
If I may comment this, I mean, the general plan is that 2021 will be kind of experimental year for the new rule or CMH. And then let's say the fully operational year, I think we could consider to be 2022. But this does not mean that we will not. We will make some certificates, but also from the the staff and the ITC point of view, the first priority now is to finalize monohulls and getting ready for, as usually, for the 1st of January and the VPP, and together with the new certificate layouts. And just a comment to Andy, I would prefer that if Andy, you can go with ITC and we can come back to the design of the certificates later on the reports on the other two committees.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. So I propose to vote on the suggestion of the ITC excluding MANCOM 1. Correct?
But I mean that there are still some parts of the report. We are not yet finished, I think, with the ITC.
No, but the submission,
on
yes.
Submissions, yeah.
Yeah. Submissions and these.
So in general, they are supporting Measure Committee 1, but we will discuss it later. And the package is to approve Management Committee 2 and Norway 1, and not to approve Germany 1, Russia 1, and Russia 2. So we need to vote on this.
Okay.
Recommendation from ITC. Can you put up a vote, Panagiotis? Only congressmen will be able to vote, please. Panagiotis?
Yes, I am preparing the form, the vote. So the vote is for a vote for ITC.
So recommendation on submissions. Okay, do you see?
Yeah.
You can vote yes, no, or abstain, and then submit.
Panagiotis, I cannot vote. Okay.
Everybody happy?
Yes.
Can we close the vote? Okay, Panagiotis.
Yeah.
So we had 3% abstain, 97% in favor, and the recommendation of ITC are approved. Thank you. Please, Andy, keep on.
Yep. There's quite a lot of detail in minutes. I'll just take a few minutes just to talk about where we are with the VPP. The fundamental models haven't changed since 2013. We've made some developments in the aero with the headsel set flying, etc. But I think the hydrodynamic model and the aero model have proved quite robust against exploitation. One of the things that's being very useful is we've now established a database of observed performance which we can match with the VPP predictions. That correlation is on the whole pretty good. We've had good support from KND in Valencia, so that's working well. We've got some VPP improvements already prepared, but I think one of the challenges we're finding is that the system I feel is working well. So whilst you can always make improvements to the physics of your VPP, you've got to be careful that the benefit of making that kind of change is balanced against disturbing the handicap landscape of the fleet, if you will, which at present is, I sense working fairly well. We might have had a different view if there'd have been some racing and some more submissions this year, but that's how it goes. And so I think it's my expectation that going forward that we will have to gather together changes in different areas of the VPP to and make changes to several elements of the VPP at the same time, so that we can achieve both better physics for the boats who are being not treated well, but also make sure that we don't just introduce a wholesale reordering of the fleet. So that's a little bit of the philosophy I feel we're working under. I'll just quickly go through the work that's on the 2021 research agenda. We're going to increase the scope of our aerodynamic model with the support of North Sails, trying really to get some more information on the masthead rigs and the effect of overlap, and also with the use of the leeward whisker poles, we're actually going to start to have to look at aerodynamic coefficients where the sheeting of the jib, where the jib sheeting angle is taken into account, and where the ability to sheet overlapping headsels is constrained by the shroud envelope. So that's new territory for the VPP. I think it's important work, particularly when we're getting more boats racing under the ORC, and of course with the announcement from the Chicago Mac Race Authority, where the boats like the Santa Cruz 70 are coming in. We need to make sure that our formulations work across a wider range as possible. So that's we've allocated a budget, we've planned the work, and that'll be supported by the usual technicians at Kerr Design and hopefully North Sails, and that project will be headed up by Robert Ransenbach. Sorry, I'll just keep rolling along. You'll have to shout if there are some questions. So in hydrodynamics, there are no changes for the 2021 VPP, but and we've had our current residual resistance model in operation since 2013, and it's a very simple formulation. It's just the Froude number based on a length term. It's the length volume ratio and the beam to draft ratio, and it's about as well. It's absolutely as simple as you can get, and it may be that there's some evidence that there are now feeling that there are some horses for courses within the ORCI rule, and we've got to try and find out why that is. So one of the things we've done during the last year is to actually do what we call boat specific CFD. So we take a take a known boat certificate and we run the VPP and we pick out the upwind sail, pick out a particular point of sailing, upwind in 8 knots, downwind in 8 knots, and so on. And then we take that exact condition and we create a CFD, a hull to run through the CFD, and then we can actually put side by side the VPP solution in terms of drag and side force and the CFD solution, and see exactly how the VPP residual resistance model is working. And you can see we've got some pretty diverse boat types now, and so we've run the. This is just a couple of screenshots from the boat specific CFD, and it's quite a, this is new ground. It's not something we've been able to do before, both from the point of view of getting the data for the boats and having the infrastructure to run the CFD. So what have we learned? Well, the residual resistance model works generally pretty well, but in some conditions it doesn't really accurately reflect the difference in residual resistance between the hull shapes. And this is a case in point. Some boats the resistance is underestimated. Some boats the resistance is overestimated. And I think the only way we can start to deal with that is to add some complexity to the residual resistance model. We're going to have to add more terms than the three we use already. This means we're going to have to make the VPP more complicated, because it will actually need to directly address a neural network model. I apologize for this slide. Just look at the left-hand slide. Just look at the left-hand side. My diagram on the right got too complicated. So what we're going to do is our plan is that we've got a CFD fleet of 500 boats, which gives us the information to create a model of residual resistance for the general case. There's some tidying up of that we need to do, and so we'll add a few more boats, and we'll rerun some points and get a very clean CFD database for our fleet. And then what we're going to do is to add some more parameters to residual resistance model. It's back to looking at the LCB, different measures of form, again looking at the geometry of the transom and the transom immersion. And then we've got to go through the process of developing that new neural network model, and then ultimately review any improvements in the accuracy, both against another fleet of boats that we have, which is our test fleet, so we can see how well that's doing, and then again see what happens when we revisit our boat specific CFD with a new VPP model. So that's a big work, but I think we're well placed to make progress. We have the tools in our toolbox. We've got the technical wherewithal to do it, so we just have to get on and do the work. If we think again on the hydrodynamics, looking at we're just close to completing the joint SYRF ORC foils research. We've taken a generic Figaro 3 boat, and we've run 3 types of foil: the DSS, the Dali, which is the Dali, and the Schistera, which is the foil that runs on the Figaro 3, and also the half pipe, which some of the IMOCA boats are running. We've run pretty much all of the CFD on that. We've got the data parceled up. So the next task is to develop the force model, which is described in some detail in the minutes. So we've got that ready to put in the hands of Davide Battistin, and the expectation is that we'll have an improved generic force model for the general case of foils for experimental use in 2021. The other important part of what we're doing is the data acquisition, the comparison of the VPP output with the measured data from the instruments, and we've been fortunate that several programs have been able to bring us high quality instrument data from well-sailed boats, and with the help of K&D in Valencia, we've been able to bring together a comparison, that comparison. And what you're looking at here in this picture is every little blue dot is a point in the ORCI fleet in terms of its spread of length volume ratio to the beam to draft ratio. So these are higher beam boats, and these are longer boats for their volume going out this way. So you can see that the boats, there isn't a good correlation between the boats that we have available for the database, which are all of the ones with a red flag, a red flagpole and listed in the square. You know, our central gravity of our fleet is here. And and these pale blue slots are boats that we're going to try and add this year. So we're getting we're starting to get some more in the meat of our fleet, and the aim is to add 6 more boats. Aim is to add 6 more boats this year and to improve the analysis of the boats we have. And it's a very helpful tool in terms, again, trying to find the areas where the VPP is doing a good job and the VPP is doing a slightly less good job. On the VPP itself, as I said at the beginning, the Fortran code is 50 years old in parts. It's been looked after by several programmers during its life. So we've taken this, Davide's taken this year to actually get the code into the latest version of Fortran, and again, this was one of the ORC MH VPP was written from the ground up in this new environment, and right now the monohull code is being migrated into it, and that'll be done in the next 4 or 5 weeks. So we're gonna get all of our code into a nice modern environment, which is easier to maintain. The other thing that's happened during this year is the Offset 2.0 program, which is where we've always had this, right from the start, we've had what we called the manual rudder, where you would enter, a boat that had a transom hung rudder. Rather than scanning it, you would add it from physical measurements taken on the rudder, not with the scanner. And the need to be able to do that for boats with foils and dagger boards and rudders, etc., has sort of increased. And obviously with the catamarans, they have a wide variety of foils, from straight up and down dagger boards or center boards to fully curved lifting foils. So again, as part of the development of the ORC MH, we've got a new offset a new offset file which will take more direct measurements of the appendages, and and that's described again in the minutes. But that's a big step forward. So you can measure you can measure an appendage off the boat and then glue it into the hull side of things. We've done the certificate, and Zoran will talk about that. And one other important thing that we've been trying to root out of our process this year is that we still have a thing called the default writing moment in the VPP. We tried to get rid of it 12 months ago, but that wasn't successful. And what that means is that on ORC club certificates, you're able to calculate stability and stability index, which is a measure of safety. And what we want, the situation we want to get to is that no stability index is published on an ORC certificate unless the boat has been inclined, and that's I think that's where we've got to with the new certificate format. So that's, I think, just that's just conscientious housekeeping, is that we shouldn't let people go to sea in boats that have got stability indices which have been based on guest information. So that's a summary of our research program. I do the upwind aero work to deal with masthead and overlapping sails and the effective shroud envelope. We've got the residual resistance, which is to update the CFD data set and start to get a new neural network running. We're going to keep working on the database. We're going to complete the foiling project and get that into the VPP, and we're going to do some more boat specific and CFD analysis. So that's what's on our plate this year. And then just finally, to conclude on the ORC MH, we've got the VPP running. It runs quickly and reliably, and you're seeing in the bottom right hand corner this is now the output of the new offset 2.0 and the new manager that shows you the offset file. We've got, this is a trimaran with a main hull and a dagger board and a rudder and a leeward float with a curved foil defined by the new methodology. So it's I have to say it's been a massive effort by the ORC staff to get all this working, and I can only thank them for their help and good humor as we pushed through it. I don't think there's much more that I can say. I'd point people to the minutes where there's more detail, but I thank the council for their time and their continued support.
Thank you, Andy. It's been a great explanation of your work, and I have also to report that you are more than happy with the group you're working with, not only in the ICTC, but as you mentioned, with the staff we have. I ask the congressmen if they have questions for Andy. If not,
I have a quick question. It's Benj.
Yeah.
Hey, Benji.
Excellent report. What is the new language?
It's not a new language. We're still working in Fortran, because that's Davide's that's Davide's language of choice, but it's now gone from sort of it's a bit like so it's still Fortran. It's Fortran 2008. And I think it's, the difference is a bit like going from Windows XP to Windows 10, as I understand it. So it's still Windows, but it works in a more up to date way.
Sounds good. Thank you.
I have also the request from Willem to add possibly these slides to the minutes. Is it possible, Andy, or not?
Yes, I could. I'm very happy to do that. I'll pass them to I'll pass the PDF to Zoran, and
then I will email all the Congress members with this document. No problem.
Yep. I have finally to report that the management committee approved the 2021 research and design budget for the ITC. So we as Andy was saying at the beginning, we don't want to stop our research and development. We have a question
Thank
from
you.
Ernst to Andy. What is the neural network doing?
What?
Neural.
What is the neural network doing?
Yeah.
Essentially, what it does is the way it works in this particular case is that we start with. Can I zoom in on? I'll just talk through it from my slide. What it does is we run in the CFD let's say 500 individual holes at a predetermined range of speed. So they're different hole shapes which are designed in a way that all of the different shapes they're familial. So it's not back in the days of the Delft series where you'd run particular boats. These boats are a family. We run that, and you run it through the CFD, and you basically get 100 results in terms an upright resistance curve and the heeled and yawed points for each of the 500 holes. And then the next question is to say, well, what features of the hull shape make a difference to the residual resistance? So obviously the length and the beam to draft ratio and the length volume ratio are the terms we've used at present. But you can also then add things like where is the longitudinal center of buoyancy? What is the ratio of the immersed transom to the midship cross-sectional area? So there's lots of different parameters that you can say, well, I wonder if those make a difference to the resistance. And so what you do is then you take all of your hull data and you say, these are the parameters that we think make a difference. And you put that into a neural network, and it basically then tells you to what extent each of the parameters influences the resistance of the boat. And then so you've then got a model which says, okay, I can take a general any boat, and I can work out the parameters, and I can put it, and I can ask the neural network to tell me what the resistance is at any sailing point. And then the way that you decide if that's working well or not is you've got another fleet, which is your testing fleet of 300 boats, which you don't use that for training the network. But what you do is you say, okay, I've got this neural network, I've got this list of parameters. I'm going to use the neural network to calculate the resistance for all of my 300 testing boats. And then I'm going to compare the neural network number, the neural network estimate, with the value I've got from running the test boats in the CFD. And then you can start to look at to what extent the error is increased or reduced as you use different parameter sets in the neural network. So if you're trying to explain it 40 years ago, you would say, well, it's a regression analysis, but it's the same idea, but it's more it's more sophisticated because it's taking in it can take in many more parameters. So that's what the neural network does. It's a way of calculating. It's a way of making something that will let you calculate the resistance for any shaped hull, and you can and it's a process for actually experimenting what's the best combination of parameters to take of the hull shape to get the best estimate of the hull resistance, if that makes sense.
We hope it makes sense, Andy.
So do I. As I say, I spent 3 hours this morning trying to create a diagram, and then I sort of thought I can't waste it, but I can't read it. So
okay.
So it's
Ernst is thanking you. Any other question to Andy? Okay, so thank you again. And we move forward to the rating officer committee work, and I leave the floor to Zoran.
Thank you. So the rating officer committee had a meeting with. I think that the good thing of the Zoom meeting was I have to admit that we probably have the biggest number of the rating officers committee present, because usually when we have live meetings, it's not that everyone is able to fly, because we have lots of. This is the biggest committee by the number, because simply we have a representative of each rating office. That currently we have some 35 plus 10 we are managing to the central rating office. We had to discuss a total of 3 submissions. Of course, where the most important one, and I would say it's probably the most important one of the whole these meetings that we have this week, because just from the fact that this submission has been allocated to 4 different committees, I think that it's significant. It is signified the importance. Maybe it's not so important in the terms that it's a big change, but it is a change in the layout, in the change primarily driven and coming first, as I would say, as a result of newly published racing management guide, where we frankly first saw that, okay, we have a very good system, there are lots of options, there are lots of numbers, but people simply sometimes get confused. And what we want to do is trying to simplify the layout of the certificate, to simplify it most to be readable for the sailors, for the race managers, and for each of them, and for the measurers, for each of them, for the part they are mostly interesting. So let me try to, this was the proposal for ORC International and the ORC Club certificate. This is only the first page was proposed, because we also made a concept what should be on the second and the third page, and I will come later on this. But what we wanted to get in from the feeling from these meetings is acceptance of general comments that probably will need to be streamlined in the days to come by the staff. And we will probably need, this is just a concept, and I think that we will work now on the details, of course, if this is accepted. The idea of the first page is, first, as you can see from these 2, is that we have this color coding that clearly defined what type of certificate is visually, that you can immediately see the difference between the international and the club. And we are thinking immediately this job was not done only for the monohull. The idea is also to use the same and similar approach to the newly established multi-hulls, as well as for the super yachts in the future. So we will have different color, and then from the color you will immediately know which certificate we are talking about. The first page is, if I zoom it a little bit more, that you can see it now, it contains the basic information about the boat. Sorry, I go here. And this is purely, so it's a little bit too much. So there is information about the boat, there is information about the hull, the basic information about the propeller, the crew weight, the things that are important for the also race managers to understand, and the owners know how much crew they may have. Then there is specific section of the rated sail areas showing which sail areas you are rated in. Since last year, we have this different approach of the asymmetrics with less and more than 85%, and for headsets and the headsets are flying. Then there is sail limitation, number of sails on board allowed by racing, and then as also Andy pointed out, stability with idea to have writing moment here printed, and whenever which is taken in the rating calculation, and stability index printed only when stability is actually measured. Actually, then will be N-A, not available for those clubs. Also, to comment here, the problem may be really that sometimes in order for the club certificates, the rating officers have the power to decide or to assign the writing moment to unmeasured stability boat, and then sometimes they can even, in order to get, let's say, a little bit worse rating for ORC club, input a little bit more writing moment, which is obviously then a problem if you are trying to screening the stability to the figure that is basically declared and maybe false declared. The man of the maybe I think that new advantage or changes, not so much changes in a sense, because we had this table in actual predicting both speeds. We had it so far on the ORC international certificate, but we believe that showing this is really showing the full potential and full, the something a feature that maybe does not exist in other rating systems so much, and we believe that we should basically little bit advertise more the fact that we are really predicting the boat speeds in different wind speeds and different wind conditions. And I agree out of this for all meetings that we had during this week. I think that one item that came out was mostly asked, and we, just as we said, was adding the jibing angle and also the beating angle in this table. And I think that we, as Andy said, we will agree and we will put this into the certificate. Originally, there was some, sometimes it is a bit, I would say, not easy to explain to the people that some of this jibing angle can vary significantly from others, but this is simply because how it's the polar curves done in the angles of, I don't know, 140 to 180. When there is very flat polar curve, you may have the big variation of jibing angles, but on the end we agree that we can simply maybe point it out that for those who want to go deeper can always go in the sailor services, and within the sailor services and the speed guide we will put explanation why this is happening like this. Out of this, the first page then will be limited basically to the two basic numbers that we always look when we are checking the first time, is the GPH and the CDL as the class definition introduced a couple of years ago. So this will be the first page. Then the second page will be, frankly, we can revert, say if it is second or third, doesn't matter for the moment. I think that, so let me open this another document. So the second section or page will be the measurement, and so this page will contain everything about the measurement, including some hydrostatic calculated values and rated values calculation, all the numbers that us as technicians probably like more, but average sailor is always just looking and without knowing what is, VCG and what is sync or what is some numbers that are changing every year. And then the most question is, I didn't change anything in my certificate, but this number is changing because of some VPP changes. So let's say that we will keep the technical stuff for technicians on this page. And then another improvement on which we are looking for recognition from the Congress, and I hope that more or less has been agreed and was a positive. My feeling was that the reactions were positive. The idea is that we simplify and rationalize the scoring options that we are currently showing on the certificate. So I will maybe go here, and here is the number of the options that you can find on our certificate. And I have to admit that it's simply, too much and too complicated to the people to understand. The problem came out when you have too much, how to select the usual question, how to select the correct one. We did it. We somehow, managed to present this through the race management guide, showing even some flow charts to selection, but still the big variety of the scoring options that are, by the way, also calculated on very different ways, sometimes simply get confusing. Therefore, the proposal is to have, let's say, default scoring options that are printing on the certificate, which are complete set of that are we all used to have, the time allowances matrix for 7 wind speeds and 10 wind directions, and then have only 2 pre-selected courses. One is for wind leeward, one is for circular random, or we may call it all purpose. So there will be 7 numbers to be used, and then there are only 2 single options, time of distance for windward leeward, and 2 options for all-purpose or circular random course. This does not mean that we are now abandoning all other options. The thing is that all other options can be customized and can be selected for the particularly for each country by the rating officer from the, let's say, most preferred scoring method in that area. This means that, for example, in the triple number, if it's widely used in Netherlands or in US, can be on their certificate. You can create your specific course, like particularly with now adoption of the ORC in the Chicago Mech and the Bayview Mechanic race. So they have their own course model. So US rating office will be able to print on the US certificates scoring options for these races. And this does not mean, of course, that one boat from one race will not be able to go in another country to race, because every single possible scoring options that can exist on any certificate will be available in the scoring file and in the RMS file. So allowing that boat from one country come to other country and race and be scored, and of course will be also updated in our ORC scoring software. I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, or if I try to summarize everything that we had discussed about this. So maybe I can stop here and answer. Is there any question about this? I think that there is question. Sorry.
Eki.
Yeah, may I add, the submission was also on the table on the race management committee. And this submission is supported, and the new design is very much appreciated. We want to thank for the big work which is done already. There are some items left, I think, and the committee's wish is, for example, to have the certificate number put in a prominent place. And the race management committee also likes the idea that there is a separate page for some space for national requirements and preferences. We will hope that this will avoid future discussion about why you use this and not that, and so on. Yeah, thank you. That is what the race management committee would like to say to that.
In both the race management committee as well as your committee, Zoran, we had extensive talks, and it doesn't make sense for certain countries to have PCS as a default option on the certificate. We would prefer, and I think we discussed it already, we would prefer to have a country select which things you want on the certificate. That will probably be on the club certificate, because I can imagine that the ORCI certificate is usually going to be used for PCS anyway.
I think it's not a question. Yeah, frankly, there was discussion, not particular decision on this. But let me put like this: as I said also for the first page, we are trying to explain to the people that the ORC rating system is based on the VPP, that is calculating theoretical boat performance in different wind conditions, and this is a unique system, and this is something that we want to promote. So for that reason, I believe that the table of time allowances with different speed and different are not just a question. It should be as a part of default scoring option. Not maybe you don't need to use it if you don't want it, but it gives you a very good overview of the boat and very good comparison tool when you want to understand why one boat is rated like this and the other boat is rated like that. If you, for example, print only triple number or only some single number, you still don't know where the difference may come out. So the complete table of polars on the third page is something as default as basically is the basis, is the result of the VPP. The VPP is the core of our system. So I don't think that we should just abandon it. Of course, if you don't want to use it, you will be available. It will be possible for you to add the different scoring options that are simple and that you may use for your race.
As we are using club and we want to make things accessible, we would prefer to have it simple. And I understand your reasoning, but by the same token, we like the system we have. And I believe there's other countries that use it. That's for the same reason.
I also have I have to say and to thank first Oslo Eki to the nice words about this work, because it is so far has been quite complicated work, but frankly we are just now starting. We as a staff will now have to make the results of all this and to design second and a third page, and to go through some items that maybe at this moment we can even not, predict what the problem can be. So the general, the work that we still have, this is the general frame. And also about the positioning of the certificate number and things like this. Yes, we will take this also into consideration. There are always some limitations that maybe Panayotis confirms from the programming point of view, how you can structure something, and also about these scoring options. So I think that some of these items, it is good to see what are the wishes, but there will be some limitation of the technical implementation of this. And frankly, I'm pretty much sure that we would like to have at least one race officers committee meeting prior to the end of the year or beginning to discuss this, simply to show to the rating officer how to work whenever we put the new software. But I don't know if we want to have another presentation or something at some stage, but frankly I think that would be better to start with something, and we are very aware that 2021 will be something new. I think we can go and show something, and then during 2021 with submissions, I'm pretty much sure that we cannot make something from the out of the first that will be perfect. We will probably need some comments and the feedback during 2021. So that will be my proposal.
So if I understand correctly, the proposal of the rating officer committee is to continue to work on the certificate layout in the direction you explained, dealing also with countries that would like to keep a certain layout in the third page or in the front page, I don't know yet, with a special and extraordinary meeting for this committee to happen in December, to make the final decision that will not need an endorsement from the Congress, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
This is, you want us to vote only on that, or you have other submission?
Yeah, I can go through other submissions that are probably not too complicated, but I think that maybe this is something that is in general. As I said, it's a submission that goes through 4 different committees. So I don't know if
we have
maybe
the support of the ITC, we have the support of the Risk Management Committee.
Yes,
we have the support of the management who proposed the submission. Yeah. I don't know about, I don't remember the measurement committee, did they say?
No, the measurement committee did not discuss this because it's not purely measurement. It's more rating officer committee. I think we have at the P&D also. I think is supporting those measures. So I think we have option. We can go with this. I think that only discussion here is about the third page. What should be, let's say, default, and what should be the custom options of the scoring. How they should be prepared. Here on the table from the rating officers committee and from the original proposal, because this was management committee that requested staff to make a proposal. So our original proposal is, as I said here, to have the complete set of table of polars as 2 courses with the single numbers with the 7 numbers shown. Again, I'm not saying that you have to use this, but this is something that clearly describe the boat, describe the potential of the boat, and describe, gives you opportunity to compare 2 boats to understand where the difference in ratings may come from.
Okay, so the suggestion is to have a single vote on this management committee one after we hear also promotion and race management, or we vote now that we know already that all these 4 committees are in favor?
We can vote now, I think.
Okay. So the vote will be to support the change in layout proposed by the staff, and to award an extraordinary meeting of the rating officer committee due to happen prior to the end of the year, the final layout of the 3 pages. Correct?
Okay.
Anybody would like to speak on that, or can we vote?
Let's vote.
Okay.
We need Panayotis to set up the vote.
So if you vote yes, we wish to have this new layout of our certificates, and we endorse also the rating officer committee in their extraordinary meeting prior to the beginning of next year to define the final 3 pages layout. Can we close the vote? Yes, Panayotis?
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
So move on, Zoran.
Okay, I'm moving on. The next submission we had on the table was about similar, but not was the fact that, as I was saying before, all this in variety of the options, there was also inconsistency in using different conversion factor, which, by the way, as we know, if you use the converting time on distance to time on time, if you use different factor, you are not changing the results, you are just changing the deltas in corrected times. But to make the long story short, we agree to standardize both the factors in the triple number coastal long distance races, but also in light of what we just said, that rating officer will have the possibility to design their own triple number or whatever, they will be able to adjust and to set whichever course matrix they want. So I think that this is supported. Also, there was discussion about triple number scoring with the proposal from.
I think you are on the wrong minute.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong minute. Too much. Sorry.
But anyhow, also we can speak about Netherlands 1 also. So we are in a common meaning about this. I mean, the management committee, the race management committee is supporting this too, with the same sense and the same thoughts.
Yeah.
So that can be voted in common.
But okay, the Netherlands one, I was on because we had both the same submission, so that's what I missed. But I completely agree. Netherlands 2 was the one that basically submission was answered with a new proposed draft, so it was therefore supported and on thing. However, the one of the let's say two together maybe. Important submissions that are also important to understand now is that with all this reorganization of certificates, there is also proposal that as we up to now have double-handed certificates, that we also have non-spinnaker certificates. So the problem, just to explain in short, is that up to now the non-spinnaker ratings were limited only on the two single options on the certificate. While, for example, you had in some countries, winter series or Wednesday afternoon racing, when they were wanted to use both with spinnaker, without spinnaker, but use different scoring options, and they could not do it. So you need to rerun additional spinnaker for these boats. So the idea is that up from 2021, both we will be able to have at the same time coexisting regular certificate double-handed certificate as so far, and new non-Spinnaker certificate. All this will be clearly indicated here in the table. Will be international double-handed, international non-Spinnaker, or club or club non-Spinnaker, or club double-handed. So basically, we are now introducing a new type of certificate, but it is only just giving all possible scoring options for the boat without Spinnaker. Of course, if the boat has no Spinnaker in the configuration, then the no Spinnaker will be the primary one. And for the scoring, there will be RMS available, files available from all three options configuration. Because if you go now and check our RMS files, they are organized in a way that you have or standard and double-handed. There will be another third tab which will be non-Spinnaker. So the race organizer, if he knows that there are some boats with a double-handed, it pick it from this basket. If it's standard, pick it from this basket. If it is non-Spinnaker, it will be picked for third basket. Of course, this will also be possible directly from the ORC Scorer software. And this is answering submission USA 2 that is partially supported in the concept of adding custom scoring options, because the USA 2 was asking exactly to have different scoring options for particular races, and that's what we said we are accepting by also with the MANCOM 1. And however, there is also USA 4 that was requesting to have multiple valid certificates, which, as I said, we are supporting in a way to have at the same time regular non-Spinnaker and a double-handed. And I think that on the end, this is actually the answering submission. And then, but however, it's not supported to have certificates of the same time of different configuration valid at the same time. So basically, if you have two regular certificates, let's say one in a so-called inshore configuration and one with offshore, they cannot exist at the same time, because it's simply against the principal rule philosophy that only the last issue certificate is the valid one. And this also applies, for example, for one design. And this will require significant change in the database management and lead to confusion and mistakes. So we don't want this. But I think that if we allow to have regular non-Spinnaker and double-handed, I think that this submission, the USA will be happy with this answer, if I understood. So I can now put generally for the vote just for other submissions. As we said, NET 1 we are supporting. NET 2 is obviously supporting, is done, and US 2 and US 4 in conjunction in a way that we introduce non-Spinnaker certificate, and that we may have for each boat regular, non-Spinnaker and double-handed certificate. I think that this is what we may vote out of this.
Are you clear, or should I resume?
If you may.
For voting. We are voting for Netherlands 1 and Netherlands 2 to be accepted. And instead, the proposal coming from the rating officer committee is to add on our files for one boat, apart the regular certificate and the double-handed certificate that are already there, a non-Spinnaker certificate. And each owner will select which one of the three will be the one to enter a regatta, and that one will be the valid certificate at that time.
For that regatta. And just to add, we still have to work some design, particularly Panayotis in a database, but at the moment when this is all set up, then we will have that another call to explain to the rating officer how to work with this.
Okay. Any question, or are we ready to vote? Please, Panayotis. Please vote. Are you done? Yes, please, Panayotis, close the vote.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 6% abstain, so we were not good enough to explain how it works.
Yeah.
I think it's a big improvement on the other hand, because we will provide our owners with the three possibilities. The owner of one boat can go racing with a regular crew, or can go double-handed, or can go in a non-spinnaker configuration. He just has to select which one is the valid certificate for that regatta. Let's move on with the measurement committee now.
Okay, the only just a note that we Panayotis, we presented the latest development of the new offset 2.0 format that Andy was also talking about, and I have to say this is still in the working phase, work in progress, but it's very good work in progress, and we are planning to convert mostly by the staff all the offsets before starting issuing certificates in 2021. And for the items like this, we will probably also have this discussed on another call for the race committee. It's not, there is nothing to vote about it. So sorry, there was one chat. I cannot see who was asking something.
Yes, comment.
Can you see, Bruno? Sorry, who is asking? I cannot see now in chat.
Is Andrew.
Andrew, yeah, please go on.
Andrew.
Andrew has just made a comment. That
I was just making a point that that IRC has had has an automatic non-spinnaker rating on every certificate, and so it's a good idea for race organizers to be able to do that.
Yeah, but Andy, sorry to comment. In your case, it's very easy. You have one number.
It is much easier. I quite agree, but we won't go into that.
We are changing the performance of the boat. We are changing the polars. So the authority and the race manager and the scorer will be able to download the correct polars for that boat if they select double-handed or non-spinnaker or regular. So unfortunately, it's more difficult with us than with IRC.
Okay. So we can go now to the measurement committee part, which was easier because there was only one submission, and actually this submission was coming from discussion. I have to say that Jason Smithwick and me started back in 2018 in the first joint World Championship, where we are, checking all the measurements, and we simply realize, in the light of the ideas of altogether of UMS, we realize that we have a couple of measurements that are, very small differences. For example, so the IRC had STL measurement that was applied both to spinnaker pole and the bow split, while we have the SPL and TPS, two measurements, one for the pole and one for the bow splitter. So I'm glad to hear. And before this, we discussed with Andy, with Jason, sorry, he told me that they are now also accepting the same approach, and this was kind of deal we set up back in 2018, saying that IRC will now also measure the bow split, a separate measurement, while we will only do small adjustment on the SPL measurement to be measured from the mast and not from the center line of boat, basically when the pole is put transversally. In the rating wise, it's very small change, because as agreed by the ITC, we will be adding 2% or 80 millimeters to the actual SPL measurement. And also it's important to know that we will call this new field SSL just as the same as IRC is working, because fundamentally there are two different measurements. Only in the rules we will say that this new measurement is replacing the measurement, the rule that was valid up to 1st of January 2021. And the ORC software manager will be also made that this changes automatically without any work for the rating office, similarly what we did last year with FSP and FSD. And of course, if any of the owners wants to remeasure this measurement, they can remeasure and have the correct value. And of course, as the time goes with all new measurements, the old SPL will probably at some point completely disappear. This is the only measurement, the only submissions that we can vote here, and I can later just report of a few cases discussed within the measurement committee.
I would like to ask if anybody is against this submission that is following the continuous work of our two technical officers, IRC and ORC, to have a similar measurement procedure. If I don't see anybody against on the chat, I would proceed and approve this submission. Thank you.
The only what I can report is that we had a couple of interesting discussion. We put on the table a couple of measurement issues. Interesting discussion during the year. A few cases were presented by Vasily and Pablo. One was need to having freeboard points permanently marked. There was definitely agreement that this should be recommended wherever possible, and particularly when you have the boat properly scanned and everything. But we also need to be very careful because recently we had a situation that will probably be reported later. We are working on this to the rating officers. That, for example, there were boats that actually have these freeboard marks, but unfortunately, sometimes positioned on the wrong places and different from boat to boat, that was causing some inconsistency in the measurements. But we are working on this, and it's something that we should think about for the future, how we put this into the rule. And also was discussion about furling head sails used with or without headset set flying, and we agree that there should be rating officer should probably check this, because our rule says that when you have the credit for a furling head sail, there should be only one head sail on the boat, meaning that even should not be head sail set flying, but we will then also add additional validation in the manager so that the rating officer can get a warning that if he's tried to issue certificate like this. And then there was also a very interesting case of boat setting up sail float around the boom and the wang that was trying to increase the sail area, but general feeling is that this does not really improve. It's not really big performance gain. However, was the discussion how to define this. Can it fit with the ERS definition of main sail? And it seems that the general feeling was yes, although there was a couple of different opinions. But anyway, this can be further investigated with possible rule changes suggested for the 2022 edition of the rules.
Thank you, Zoran. And I ask everybody to go through the minutes themselves. We are running late. So I ask Per Boimo if he could briefly report about the Special Regulation Subcommittee meeting in World Sailing. Per, are you still here? Yes.
Yes, I do. There was not much submissions this year, so only 3 submissions. Only one for Netherlands was changing the wording of the offshore special regulations to safety special regulations. That was rejected. And B was just housekeeping things as racing rules changed. The rule was changed from 3 to 4. And the third submission was from ORC regarding the heavy weather sail area. And where the IG is the abbreviation of the height, and that was changed to height of 40 angle, and instead it's using our ERS. That's basically the old submissions. And more on the, yes, I just can mention the keel structural integrity is postponed until 2022, so the owners have more time.
Okay. Thank you, Per. Any question to Per for the special regs? No, thank you. Then we move to Offshore Class and Events Committee. Zoran, can you put it up?
Yes, I will put the minutes up.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry. I think that someone has the microphone on with some background noise. So please, if you are not speaking, please just be sure that you are muted.
We had a submission from one from Sweden who is asking to have inside our existing championship the possibility to create a new title that will be awarded to the country with a team of the best score entries within each class. There was discussion about requirements needed, and at the end we felt that the formulation currently on the Green Book is working fine. And the committee supported the Swedish submission and is asking the staff to review the wording and to add this new national title in the next edition of the Green Book. If you can scroll down, Zoran.
Right.
Okay, no, you missed one.
No,
yes. There is a submission Sweden too, asking to get to the same weight of points for offshore and windward and inshore races within a championship. There was a lot of discussion, difference between World Championship and Continental Championship, length of the event. At the end, Sweden withdrew the submission with intention to present a new submission with a more detailed proposal on how the format of the championship may be improved both for Worlds and Continental next year. So we will not have to vote on this submission. Sweden 3, double-ended class at ORC Championship. Again, the submission was approved in part and was not supported in the portion that proposes to include a double-handed class in existing ORC Championship, because this may include sailors that would also like to participate in the fully crewed event and would make additional logistic requirements to the organizer to accommodate double-handed fleet both on the racing areas with different starts or different courses and on the moorings. However, recognizing the strong development of double-handed racing with more than 2,300 ORCDH certificate issues in 2020, and following the suggestion from the Management Committee, the Offshore Class and Events Committee will recommend to Congress to establish new ORC double-handed classes within one or more rating or measurement bands, for which separate continental championships may be organized annually starting from 2021. In other terms, and the Swedes were behind us with this proposal, we will be creating new rating bands and new double-handed classes, and we possibly will be ready to organize a continental championship for these new classes starting from next year. So there was a request from the committee for bids. If they come, we will call for an extraordinary meeting of this committee and try to award the event even in 2022. For the format and the constraints and limits of the new classes, we will send for approval this proposal from the staff to the committee members prior to the beginning of next year. USA 3 championship racing formats, also talking about the possible addition of a double-handed class, and following decision on submission 2 and 3 from Sweden, USA agreed to work together with Sweden for a new formulation of submission Sweden 2, accepting also the decision of establishing new ORC double-ended classes as a positive response also to their submission. Therefore, we don't need to vote on this. So in general, we have to vote on an agreement to form new double-ended classes and an agreement to have new national titles within our ORC championships. Anybody who would like to talk or have questions? No? So we are ready to vote. Please, Panayotis. So if we vote yes, we vote for the recommendation of the offshore class and event committee. No against, and abstain. Are you done? Okay, Panayotis, you can close the vote. Thank you very much. We can move on with the minutes. Zoran, please.
Yes.
Down. The staff will continue to work on the Green Book, and the new draft will be submitted to the committee members prior to the publishing of it. For the super yacht, I already said there will be no change in the rule in agreement with the Super Yacht Racing Association. We will start with 2 events in New Zealand, the Millennium Cup that has been going on since 10 years, and there was another event planned to be happening between the Prada Cup and the America's Cup in Auckland. Then we start with Caribbean season, Antigua Super Yacht Challenge and Bucket. And then coming to the Med with Loro Piana, Palma, Perini Cup in Portocervo. We hope that next year at least part of this season will be happening. For the calendar of future events, as already said, we will be in Tallinn for the Worlds in August, and in Naples for the Europeans in May, and in Istanbul in August for the Eurosport both Europeans. We also will follow some multi-hull events with our link with the Maxi Association, Owner Maxi Association of the multi-hull, and their events are mainly based in the Caribbean and in the US East Coast. Double-ended events, following the decision on the submission we just voted, the committee is invited clubs and national authority to present their bids to host continental championship from 2021 and thereafter. Finally, we had the bid for 2022, and we received for the World Championship that should be a joint championship IRC ORC Worlds from Yacht Club Costa Smeralda and Portocervo. The committee agreed to award the bid to Portocervo. I called Rourke and Andrew can report what their reaction was. Please, Andrew.
Yes, I've discussed this with Rourke and UNCL and the IRC Congress chairman, Michael Boyd, who, and the in the end, the conclusion was that everybody is delighted with the choice of Portocervo, and my own personal feeling is that I think we'll get a representative fleet from both IRC and ORC with a nice central location in the Mediterranean. And I think and we know that YCCS organize fantastic events. So I think it's an excellent choice and I fully support.
And of course, what Andrew didn't mention, we will be organizing a joint working party like we did for The Hague and for New York to work toward the organization together with Yacht Club Costa Smeralda of this event. Then the committee discussed about 2 bids presented for ORC 2022 Europeans from Tel Aviv and Valletta. They were very well received and we thanked these bidders, but the concern of the committee was to re-establish the alternate phase from south and north. When we are having the World Championship in the Med, normally we have been going with the Europeans to the Baltic, and therefore we asked the Congress, this committee asked the Congress a permission to make a final decision by the end of this year, extending invitation for possible bids from Northern Europe, but also acknowledging that with the addition of the newly proposed double-handed Continental Championship, that bids will be accepted for 2022 ORC Europeans, 2022 Sport Boat Europeans, 2022 and 2021 double-ended Continental. So I think we need also a vote from the committee, from the Congress, sorry, to accept the suggestion from this committee, not only to award the joint awards to Porto Cervo in 2022, but to accept a delay and to put in charge the offshore class and event committee to make a decision for these 4 championships before the end of the year. I don't know whether we should vote or if you are all in favor. I only ask who is abstaining and contrary to speak or to put something in the chat. If not, thank you. The committee also talked about the organization of this committee, and I already reported the change in chairmanship due to the passing away of Paolo Massarini on February 17. Okay, this is done, thank you. And now we move on with the Race Management Committee to Eki, please.
Yeah, hello everybody again. There are not very much items left now because we had already 2 submissions we have voted on already. And there's only 1 left, that is USA 1. And this is dealing about the question, how long does a race manager have the option to fix the wind range finally in a triple number scoring race? And first we thought that this should be an additional wording in the ORC rating system in number 403.4, but then we found out that this is on the wrong place because the ORC rating system is the system where the rating is explained and not the scoring things. And then we found that the recommendation about the use of the wind range fixing is already written in the new guidebook, the race management guidebook. a guide for race managers, and it has nearly exactly the wording the USA submission wants, and so the submission was not supported because it is done in the race management guidebook. Shall we vote now about this, or shall we talk about this? Unmute, please.
Sorry. If you agree, I would vote for all the recommendation comprehensive of the other submission that we already voted at the end, so that you can explain also the other recommendation.
The Race Management Committee has no more submissions now. It's the only one left. We can. The Race Management Committee was then talking about the Race Management Guidebook. You know, there was the idea to produce a short version, a kind of quick guide, as a smaller and more comprehensive production. But after consideration how this could be made, there are so many different approaches from nation to nation that we think that that we cannot fulfill this wish for all the ORC needs, and we better leave this thing to the nations, to the different nations, and we are being more. We would be more effective by supporting these different nations to find good guidelines, and maybe in their own language, and referring to the scoring options they use in their home waters. This then, under any other business, we had a short talk about a system which is used in the US, which is something between triple number and PCS. And after some discussion, we found out that this is very similar to which was made in Greece a couple of years ago, and then was given up because it is too complex. But it is possible to use it from the database which we have. There's nothing to program or something like that. And finally, we spoke about the context between race managers and the Race Management Committee. We would like to improve this to get a better exchange of experiences and get more idea where problems might be. And we were thinking about how we can do this. One way is to send out a questionnaire similar to what Ab Passmann did in the past, and maybe another good solution is to offer a video conference for race managers, where they can come along and talk about their problems and ask questions and so on. This is in the moment it is just an idea, and we will think about this and maybe then organize it. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eki. And I ask the Congress whether they accept, without voting, all the recommendation, including the rejection of USA submission, because it's already in the Race Management Guide from the Race Management Committee. If anybody would like to talk or is against the non-voting procedure, please put your chat. If not, we proceed with the DOPS and Promotion and Development Committee. Thank you, Eki, again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Bruno. Zoran, are you going to give me screen sharing?
You can start from your side. Can you? If not, Panayotis will put. Yeah. Okay.
No.
Okay.
How does that look?
Yeah, we see the minute.
Okay, great. Thank you, because I don't see this. Right. So, always at the Congress, I'm toward the end, and I have to repeat some of the things that were said by the other committees. But I just want to remind everybody that our committee often is a nexus, as a gathering point for lots of ideas that are promoted both technically and otherwise. However, we do take a lot of the discussions from the other committees and discuss them in a different way, which is how to use these innovations as we go forward in time to help promote the system. So if at the risk of being redundant, I'll just ask everybody to bear with me as I go through some of these. I too, like Zoran, was impressed with the turnout that we had. So that's a positive aspect of Zoom, is to be able to have a lot of folks and hopefully promote them to interact, to provide ideas. But we had a great turnout. This year, as everyone knows, was a little bit truncated in our efforts to go around the world and talk about ORC and give presentations and help support events. However, we did get a few things done. In February, Zoran and I went to Istanbul at the request of the Turkish Sailing Federation and organizers there. We had a really good, very good couple of days talking both technically and politically, and also follow-ups with them for support of the Sport Boat Championship, which was supposed to happen this year, but didn't, and is postponed to next year. But the larger big boat fleet is also quite interested in use of ORC, and to our amazement, actually using one of our most sophisticated scoring model. So going from a single number system to going to PCS was certainly an eye opener for me. Zoran, some of our technical colleagues are not surprised by that, but I am, and good on them. They're really very advanced, and we look forward to having a good season with them next year. We also had some a measurement seminar, a UMS seminar. So Jason Smithwick from the Rourke Rating Office came here to Annapolis in early March, just before everything blew up. Fortunately, he was able to come, and we had an excellent turnout of measures in North America and as far away as New Zealand, actually, who it was promoted as a UMS seminar to try to provide a groundwork for the World Championship, which at that time was not canceled yet. So that was really positive, and not just for ORC, but the whole concept of UMS. I think it was a great thing to have in this hemisphere. We're used to doing these things in Europe, but this was great to have here. It was a big step forward. Finland and Estonia were also targets this year, and the tech staff did a great job, along with Patrick Lindquist, at getting the local handicap system used in those countries converted over to ORC. And you saw that in the fleet statistics. In terms of new fleets, certainly this news that came out the other day is also a big one for us here in North America. The Chicago Mackinac and Bayview Mackinac races are two very large races. They're 300-ish and 265-mile races, respectively. And they typically draw 300 boats in Chicago, 200 boats in Bayview. These are the signature events in those Great Lakes big boat season schedules. They're every year. They're not just for pro level sailors, they're for club level sailors. It's really very much a focal point for big boat sailing in this country. We've been working with the chief measurer from the Mackinac race, Ron White, who was a former congressman in this organization. Their concerns with the use of the other system was many faceted, but we had a good relationship with them, and both on the technical level and political level. So this will be an ongoing project, and I want to thank in advance Nathan Titcomb as our rating officer here in the States for really helping with this. The conversion from the ORR system to ORC on paper will be easy, but inevitably we'll find some technical issues to solve. And I think that with Nathan's help and Ron's understanding, this should be a piece of cake. We also have excellent technical staff and depth in our own technical staff to help support this change. So we're looking forward to a good experience, and those races are in July every year, and we're certainly hoping that COVID doesn't have an effect on them as they had this year. The Chicago race did not run. The Bayview race did run. So we'll see. Other newer news that has come out of this announcement is interest from Lake Ontario in the Toronto area. They saw this and looked at their own trends in their local fleets, and have now joined with a close relationship. If Phil Haggerty is still with us, he may know about this, but they're in good contact with the other end of Canada in Vancouver, and they'll be establishing an ORC fleet in Lake Ontario as well. So that was certainly encouraging. Going back then to, just shut this, submission. I'm going to bring up, if I can, the certificate layout. We certainly, ManCom 1 was our only submission to this committee. We certainly agree with it in principle that the old certificate layout was one that was pretty intimidating to new users of ORC. They see the wall of numbers. We do have a graphic, which is great, but a lot of the other things, were deemed kind of incomprehensible to certainly the first-time users. Eventually, they get it. So we think that this new layout will be effective, particularly for new markets and help in our promotional efforts. What we're especially, well, two things. We agree with the Race Managers Committee that we, just for functionality, like to see certificate numbers put up in this section of the new certificate layout, just to help race admins. A lot of the race admins, certainly in the US and perhaps elsewhere, still rely on certificates. They don't necessarily have the scoring tools to deal with RMS files. So they still rely on the concept of a certificate, paper or otherwise. So we'd like to get that certificate number put up here, and we can certainly work with the tech staff on that. And then the option of having a scoring page, the third page, is phenomenal because that will allow us, particularly here in the US, but we expect in other cultures, such as our friends in the Netherlands, that they can see what they like, where they like to have it, and have complete control on that page to tailor their ratings relative to races that they have in their constituency. So, for example, these are the scoring. This is you probably can't see it. It's probably pretty small, but that's an example of the scoring matrix for the Chicago Mac all-purpose course model, and then the Chicago Mac off-wind course model. They've also given us an upwind course model. So when events come to use our system, if they provide us this data, we can then work with Nathan in the rating office to provide ratings for those races on this third page of the certificate. And I think this will go a long way because, again, in our quest for transparency, when we have these things on the certificate already established, it just makes it a lot easier in communications. So, oh, and then last thing on certificates is ITC and the technical staff seem to be nervous about, well, and rightfully so, nervous about putting stability on the unmeasured certificates. So club certificates that don't have that measured data, writing moment data, and that raises a few flags for me and for some of us who are intersecting with distance race management, because when they use the safety rules that require a minimum stability, such as 110, I don't know if there's any that require the category 2 115s, but certainly category 3 of a 110 minimum stability index. Oftentimes those races use club certificates, and until now they had the estimated values of stability index printed on there. By going away from that, we're depriving them the opportunity to have that ready reference for an entry in the race to what their compliance is with those safety rules. After some discussions with Zoran and with Nathan, what we think we'll do to help solve that for race managers in the future on club certificates where this field may be empty is to provide a list of sister ship boats of that type that race managers can then use if they want to check compliance of their entries for the safety rules. So that may solve two problems. One, the ORC's problem of not wanting to commit to have a default stability, unmeasured or estimated stability on a certificate, but also the race managers who really don't have the bandwidth like some of us do to know how to get into our tools to go do searches for stability indices of boats of the same type that's measured. That's a pretty big exercise. So by working with our programmers and creating a list that can be readily available to them, we can help solve this particular gap. So I just wanted to make mention of that for those that may have some concerns. Right, and we think the color coding on these certificates and the readily available branding is really important, and that will really help. Our committee had some discussion on that.
Okay.
Now, there was a lot of discussion. Sorry.
No, so
yes.
We are running late, so please, if you can condense your
All right,
report.
well, I'll then just go back to my minutes. All right, double-handed. Yeah, so just further discussions. Well, I'll go back. What ManCom 1, our committee supports. Do we need to vote on that, Bruno, or?
I think we already voted. So
I think everybody's on that. Okay, good. So I'll just make a quick summary of other discussions. Double-handed certificates and double-handed sailing, our committee completely supports. We see this as a growth area. We had a report from our social media manager, Pirette, who is also involved with organizing the Worlds next year in Tallinn. She reported that our social media presence has actually grown, particularly in Instagrams, as well as Facebook. We also approved getting those who are involved locally in commission a library of images and approved branding, so that they are free to help promote ORC in their local markets in an approved way. Eki mentioned the quick guide. We also decided that a universal quick guide is something that we really can't do. We tried. We looked at the race management guide. We went through a flow chart that's in the appendix of the race management guide, and realized that not everybody is going to find this suitable for a quick guide. So we'll be relying on things like this. This was a webinar that I did for the audience here in the States back in April. We'll just be doing more and more of those things as they come up. I've already got interest from sailmakers and other industry people for the MAC race. I've got 6 of these things lined up already. So we'll be relying quite a bit on that. Quick guy, what else? Double-handed championship that Bruno mentioned in his committee. Our committee would very much like to be involved. and help discuss formats and what would be consistent with trends that we see in double-handed sailing. We're very happy about also the ability to have a non-spinnaker, a double-handed, and a full crew or regular certificate. We've seen growth and interest in this on all three of those types. So streamlining that and making that readily available for race managers and sailors, we think is a really good thing. And the multi-hull rule, we very much look forward to seeing that roll out in some manner, even if it's experimental, because we see a strong interest in that in different constituencies really around the world. It's definitely a growth area. Lastly, what our committee agreed to do was to try to meet more often. We rather than just meeting once a year as we do now, I'll try to keep on a quarterly schedule or some more frequent use of this tool, the Zoom tool, to get a chance to meet, solicit feedback, and then take that feedback through the staff and other projects that we have going at the same time. Any questions from anybody?
Thank you, Dobbs. I think
thank you.
You did a great job. And we are, as I said, running a little bit late. I apologize for that. We still miss one committee, that is the management, and I will report. We need an important vote within this management, that is about deciding levies for next year. Okay. We had several meetings. It's still amended. Okay, track changes.
It's okay now?
Yes. We talked about Oceanic and Offshore Committee, but we discussed this already with the Congress. We had to report about the joint score method in the Offshore and Oceanic Committee over Sailing. As I said before, with Andrew, we already decided to form a new working party for next combined works, and we will continue to work towards a scoring system that can be an improvement since the one we have been deciding and was not applied in New York because the event did not happen. For the submission, I think we already went through all the submissions, so go down. We talked already about double-handed new classes. For the financial report, we have instead to vote, and I will say at the end, for go down. For the pre-statistics, we saw that. And for the publication, we already discussed in the other meetings. We approved the budget, as I already mentioned. The championship already done. Scroll down. Yeah, already said. Multi-hull, go down. I think we are repeating ourselves.
Yeah, everything is covered.
Yes, I want to stop here. I have to thank in front of the Congress all our staff, because they faced a very difficult time being not only locked down, but in different parts of the world, and being able to cooperate and work together was not easy. And personally, the management interviewed all of them and is really willing to thank them all for the work they continuously have been doing during the year with a lot of difficulty. I think we have at ORC, as I mentioned, a crew of 12, some full-time, some part-time, that is exceptional. And I hope they will continue to work with us because I'm sure the result is fantastic. So now I put on the table the only vote that we need to have. As you remember, We have levies fixed last year in 78 euros for the international certificate, 46 euros for club certificate, and 23 euros for sport boat and one design certificate. We need to approve these fees. We propose as management to remain the same also for next year, but the Congress need to discuss eventually or to approve these fees also for next year. Open for discussion. Anybody has would like to talk about our levies? No, then I think we need a formal vote. Panayotis, if we are accepting the same fees as last year or not, or we should abstain. Please vote. Okay, Panayotis, you can close the vote. Thank you very much. I think we are doing great with our fees, not increasing them in this difficult moment. National authorities are also running in economical problems. So that's end our management committee report. Going back to the agenda, we are missing only 2 items. One is a calendar for 2021 meetings and events. As I already said, we don't know whether we will continue to meet with our committees, management, ITC, offshore class and events, rating officer by Zoom or live. We will follow closely the development of the COVID. We hope to come back to meet face by face. It is important to share opinion, not only to speak in front of APC, even if I can see most of you, but it's very, very different to have also a drink together around a table. It is best ideas are coming out from a dinner or from a glass of wine, as Benji knows very well. So we also take care to monitor the situation for Abu Dhabi. We're sailing confirmed next year meetings in Abu Dhabi already. As I told you, it is a very expensive place. It means for us 75,000 euro cost. So we will provide to you information like we did this year, whether to cancel the meeting or whether we instead, if things are going better as we all hope, will be going to Abu Dhabi. If you have any other business, please come forward with the chat. If not, I have to thank again all you as congressmen, all our committee members for the work they have been doing in these 10 days. The schedule allowed for many of us to attend most of the committees. I think we demonstrated to be a company that is capable to work in any difficulty and to able also to produce rules for our sailors, notwithstanding the situation we were living this year. And finally, let me thank Wolfgang Schäfer and all our management for the marvelous work they have been doing during the year, as well as our staff. Thank you. Have a good night, and let's hope we see each other in Abu Dhabi next year.
Thank you, Bruno.
Thank you, Bruno, for a good year.
Ciao.
Thank you, Bruno. Bruno.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao, everyone.
Thank you.